But yeah, let's go back to the main course, which is green-yellow mid-range. Let's start from 0 up. Sorry. So now, about green-yellow mid-range. The main reason for playing this deck are actually a few cards. Azarai and Soul Drain and Last Nightmare. Best blue cards. Oy. Sorry? Hello? Yeah, so these are best yellow cards in the format. And you should probably be playing them. Then, another thing good from green, you want Runin's Avenger and the Runin's Command. This is core of the yellow-green control deck. You have removal and strong creatures, and you really, this enables you to kill at the beginning of the game the things you need, and this is one of the best things to stop aggression. Then we will add some other things. Because we play Runin's Avenger and because our mana curve is quite a bit high, we want to play Soul Pact. This is really good combo with Runin since it damages yourself. It's strange to say, but it's actually a good thing when you're playing against slower decks that do not damage you, because it will be harder for them to deal with Runin. Then there is other thing. I usually want to play Choking Sands as additional removal nowadays, because quite a few people I think are running small powered creatures. So two of Choking Sands is a good idea to have. Now, as you can see, we have really a lot of abilities and only 4 creatures. This means that the green fairy becomes really good in this deck. I mean, it's quite often that it becomes 2/5 taunt, and that's hard to deal with. It's good at harvesting, and it's good for its stats. You only spend 2 Faeria to get it. Usually you should try to trigger it the same turn you play it, but sometimes you just want to play it, and if you see the opponent isn't playing red or yellow, at least turn 1. So if you start and you see that the opponent is not playing desert or mountain turn 1, you should want to play it on turn 2 immediately before they get 2 mountains and 2 deserts, so that he cannot soul drain him or kill or Safer's Wrath the Flower Silk Fairy. If he has 2 deserts or 2 mountains, then you usually want to wait until you can trigger at least 1 draw at the same turn. But otherwise, Fairy is really good, and because we're playing Fairy, this is actually the card I saw people playing, and one I really liked myself lately, Tiki Piper. This, first of all, it gives protection to Flower Silk Fairy, and I mean 4 toughness means it will not die to any small damage spells, and when it grows it becomes really big. Plus, even if you do not have Flower Silk Fairy in play, it's only 1 forest and it becomes 1/5. So stats wise, you do not lose anything. And it becomes a really good harvester, so you can get to your bigger mana creatures. And then, also with Tiki Piper and Flower Silk Fairy, one of the auto-include green cards is Tiki Caretaker. I mean, you want to either buff Fairy or Tiki Piper. This is just, yeah, anybody who's played with Tiki Caretaker knows that this card is just really, really good. So that's why we also want to play it, since we have good targets for it. And if worst comes to worst, you can just target himself. Last card from green is Tetra Soul of the Wild. I mean, with Tiki Caretaker, Piper, and Flower Silk Fairy, you have enough targets for the buff, so you want to play him. The case might be made for the fact that the dragon costs too much, and sometimes just is stuck in your hand doing nothing. But the fact is that he's so much value that, and sometimes it just wins you the games outright when you pump some random Tiki Piper with it. Opponent will be really hard pressed to deal with 2 6/6 creatures. This is basically how the deck looks like, and about 2 last slots I'm still uncertain. Breath of Life is a really good addition, and I'm really considering it all the time, but the fact is 4 forests is really hard. If you're creating additional forests, it means you're not drawing cards or not getting Faeria from your power wheel, which you should be doing. So currently you just create 2 deserts, 2 forests the first 4 turns of the game, and after that you just every time you either draw or plus Faeria. This way you will have enough resources to deal with whatever opponent has. So, but if you include Breath of Life, you will have to add more forests to the board, which means you're not drawing cards, not gaining Faeria. While the card is good, I do not think it will fit here. Then I tried Wood Elemental, but the fact that he dies to the Freedom Fighter makes him kind of bad inclusion. So I removed him from the deck lately. Actually, it was substituted to Tiki Piper. You can play Deepwood Grizzly, Grove Guardian, Verduran Force. They all are good creatures, but I really want something more high-powered. And one of the things that players play in this deck, and I actually think it's a good inclusion, is Kalim's Sky Prodigy. The fact that it is 5 mana 3/6 with flying and charge 2 makes him good as a harvester and slightly hard to deal with. Plus he's good as to finish up the games faster. I'm not sure whether he's the best inclusion, but that's the one I'm usually playing in this slot right now. And last slot is something I'm not sure what's supposed to be. At one point I tried Shaitan Vampire, and if there are a lot of weenies, you would want to play him and maybe replace Kalim with second Shaitan Vampire. But currently I haven't seen as much of a value for Vampire, that's why I'm not playing him. And instead I want probably to test more with Imperial Judge, because giving Safeguard is pretty good for your big creatures when they fight opponent's big creatures. And if opponent plays something like Steamforge Enforcer turn 2, you actually have an answer. I think the card is underplayed, but people start recognizing how good he actually is. And this is probably the list I want to play right now with this deck. So yeah, this is basically how I envision green-yellow to be. Let's try playing so this is more of a mid-range, but since you have Azurai and Last Nightmares, I do believe it could be called Control, so let's remove the duplicates. So let's try playing some sample match, at least 1 or 2 sample matches with green-yellow mid-range. I do think that the Yellow Rush is actually better in current metagame, at least in lower and higher ranks, but this is more interesting deck, and I think it's more suited for climbing, and you're actually learning how to play instead of just autopiloting like Yellow Rush. Yeah, so in green-yellow mid-range, Shunin might be good, but as the last slot instead of that, of the thing I added. The biggest problem with Runin is that he's pretty bad against aggressive decks. You do not want him. And with how cancerous the Yellow Rush is, I do not want to include anything in the deck that's not good or decent against Yellow Rush. Otherwise, if the Yellow Rush becomes non-existent, then Runin is of course out to include in the deck because he's, as you said, really good against against control decks and even in mirror. So if people play this green-yellow mid-range a lot then yes, I'm not sure how the metagame on lower ranks currently looks like, but if there is a lot of green-yellow mid-range and you want to play the deck yourself, then Runin is really good. One of the few things that I miss from the deck, but I do not think that should be added, is Runin Shrine. The card is really good, but the biggest issue with it, in green-yellow mid-range, you do not have that many creatures that benefit from Runin Shrine. It is an option to add, but you have too many of the different events for Runin Shrine to be good. Okay, it's easy if you have good board state, but mainly I do not think it's good enough. Not for this deck. Okay, we have Harvester, we have Removal, we have Deathra. Technically, I don't think I want to mulligan this hand. Usually I would want to have a Fairy on turn 1, but this is fine as well. Now, the thing about playing first turn is, with Tiki Piper, I'm inclined to play Forest here, but then I become susceptible to Rush. I don't really know what he's playing, and I'm probably going to do it this way, but this is really awkward. I really dislike playing my first land here. It's just too risky. I firmly believe that any decks that wants to play first land here is doing probably a mistake. So let's start collecting Faeria. I'm actually, it's really going to be really good if he's playing blue, then Choking Sand becomes real valuable. And he seems, oh, Battletoads, of course. Huh, that's funny. Now, I know I'm making a mistake, but if I started doing it, just let's continue doing it. So, this way, I will deny him next turn any Faeria he might gain. So, also, do you see, he played one card, and I had to spend 2 cards to deal with it. If I wouldn't do that, then he would just snowball me with all the Faeria he's gathering from those toads. Because one toad jumps here, second jumps here. It's just so irritating. At least now I can just Choking Sands Ancient Herald. Because there are quite many heralds lately in the metagame. That's why 2 of the Choking Sands is a good idea to have. Maybe a third one. Yeah, the blue is a really bad matchup for this deck. I cannot Choking Sand that, and if I do not Choking Sand Toad right now, then he will start collecting 2 Faeria a turn, which will put me too far behind. I think I want to get a Fairy or some. Anyways, I need more cards. I need more options. Okay, Fairy is good. I can't play it this turn, so I will just Choking Sand here. I'm too afraid of this second Toad. So, but I can play Fairy here. I really want it to trigger as fast as possible, so I will do it like this. Okay, so it triggered. That was good. I need to more Faeria to cast my Tetra. As you can see, by the way, this is the reason I did not want to place my lands this way. I was kind of forced because even with this awkward land placement, the fact that I was able to gather more Faeria quickly was really important. But even so, yeah, it was worth it, but the land placement is awkward because my creatures require one more turn than they would normally do to get anywhere. So I will first draw a card because that's what I'm supposed to do this time. Yeah, this is good. Now I can Soul Pact into Avenger, or next turn I can even Soul Pact into Tetra. So point is, his board situation clearly tells me that he wants to play some creature here next turn. He is unlikely to attack me from this side. That's why I'm going to move Fairy here. Plus, this actually forces him to go here, because if he doesn't do anything, my Fairy will start double harvesting, which will be really bad for him. Okay. Yeah, that's what I really didn't want to happen. Now I need something like Azarai. Actually, he would do that independent of what I did. Meh. Yeah, I need to draw into an Azarai. If worst comes to worst, I can just play Ruin's Avenger here, but he doesn't have any cards, so it's technically not horrible, but yeah. Only a 5, only a 6/6. That's troublesome. I mean, yeah, mono yellow or other yellow decks are really hard to deal with this hype. I mean, but I basically have to just bank on the fact that he does not have removal for my Ruin's Avenger. And for if you were playing something like mono green or green red or red, then this situation would be a nightmare for him. But since he's playing blue, then he can just transform it into a 4/4. Or do it like that. Of course! I mean, what else could it be? Oh my. Oh my. This is... Yeah. That's... Sometimes this happens. Why do I never... Why does it never happen to me? Now I'm forced to just play flower. I mean, this game is just as good as over. So my only choice is to get Fairy, get an event from Fairy. No, I didn't. Then I can just scope. If I go to an event, I could just boost it from Ruining and possibly come back, but not with this hand.